Hey, it's Tony with Build the Dream. In this video, I'm going to give you 8 tips for intermediate stand-up paddleboard riders. Let's begin. So, you've been paddling for a few months now. You have the basics down pat. Your paddling is effortless. Trying to balance is a distant memory. And standing up is natural. If you're about there, but you still feel like there's room for improvement, this video is for you. Tip number 1. Hold your paddle vertical to the water. For many months starting out, including the very first SUP video we did, I didn't hold my paddle completely vertical. Holding it vertical allows a more efficient row for greater speed and helps keep the boat straight without the need to switch sides as often. Tip number 2, and you might not know how important of a tip this is yet until you get on the board next time, but relax your feet. For some odd reason, tensing your feet is a natural reaction for many people when standing on a paddleboard. However, tensing the feet isn't only uncomfortable, which reduces the trip's enjoyment, but it also tires your legs out quicker. Next time you get on your board, try to make it a conscious effort to relax your feet a little bit. You probably didn't even notice how bad you were tensing them from the beginning. And for me, I know it made a very big difference. And tip number 3, angle the paddle's power face slightly towards you. The power face is the part of the paddle that's curved out, which is the part facing you while you're paddling. If you angle the paddle's power face slightly towards you rather than straight back, it helps keep the board straight while rowing. This little trick will reduce how often you need to change sides. And tip number 4 is the wide turn while continuing to move forward. A trick to turn quickly while moving forward is by bending and making a wide stroke while the blade is angled away from you. Be sure that the paddle isn't too shallow on the water to make the most out of your stroke. And tip number 5, quick turns in place. Making a large turn while you're staying in the same place like a clock is a pretty easy trick that I actually need to do quite often. To turn left, bring the paddle to your left side and stroke the paddle in a forward motion. Then switch to the right side and stroke in the standard backward motion. Keep repeating until your SUP is facing where you want it to be. To turn to the right, vice versa. If you haven't tried this trick before, I recommend staying away from the shore or areas where it's not safe to fall, as it might be a little tricky starting out. And next tip, the pivot turn. While on the subject of turning, the SUP pivot turn is a really cool technique that turns your board at a rapid speed without changing your paddling side. Basically, while rowing at moderate to high speeds, you bring your feet to the back of the board at the perfect point, where it elevates the front of the board's pitch. When the front of the board is elevated, it allows a sharp turn of the board when stroking. Once your board is turned where you want it, bring your feet back to the center. And believe me, expect to fall the first several times practicing the pivot turn. And the next tip, this kind of goes hand in hand with the previous one, utilizing the pitch of your board. There's a few creative things you can do with utilizing the pitch of your board. 1, aside from the pivot turn, another thing you can do is you can dock it on land without getting into the water. You do this by getting towards the back to lift the front, which brings the board closer to shore than it usually would. Then once stopped, walk to the front, which docks the board and generally allows you to walk from the board directly onto the land. Briefly touched on the last tip, but another cool trick for utilizing pitch is quick turns and stops. Utilizing the pitch will give you the creativity to come up with some of your own moves for quick turns. Also, if you're in shallow water, you can get to the front of the board to lift the rear up, which reduces the chance of your fin getting caught on the ground of shallow water. It works very well. And the 8th and final tip, keep your back straight while paddling. Keeping my back straight is actually something that I'm still working on. Not only is it better for your back, but it helps engage your core and enhances proper rowing technique. Straightening your back also helps keep the paddle vertical for a more efficient stroke. And those are my 8 tips for intermediate paddleboarders. I hope this video helped. If you like travel, adventure, hiking, kayaking, paddleboarding, subscribe to this channel. Check out our merch in the description and have a blessed day.